Hi everyone, my name is Dai and this is my partner Jia and today we're going to present the Women's March, which is basically a protest that was launched by feminists and activists who were striving for equal rights.
So let me introduce the background of this march. This march is first start at the January 21st to 22nd in 2017, and the first location is in Washington, D.C. Their goal is to protection of their rights, their safety, their health, and their families. They want this in recognizing that their vibrant and diverse communities are the strength of their country. This word is in the everything you need to know about the Women's March. The Meredith said in 20th January in 2017. It first starts on November 9th in 2016. The first day after Donald Trump was elected president of the United States. In reaction to Trump's election campaign and political views, and to his defeat of presidential nominee, Hillary Clinton, teacher shook off Hawaii created a Facebook event and invited friends to march on Washington in protest. This makes that people want to make this march is that after Donald Trump was election and his election of presidential, to ensure that the march was led by women of different races and backgrounds. There are many different people to be the head, like they have the head of campaign operations, and they had the head of logistics and artistic director and a national organizer, and also in order to make this march more internationalization, 7 women coordinated marches outside the United States.
So, as one of the most influential protests, it has some really iconic items. For example, the Pussy Hat. So the Pussy Hat project was a nationwide effort initiated by Krista Sue and Jana Sweetman, a scriptwriter and architect located in LA, to create pussy hats, pink hats to be worn at a march. For visual impact, the hats are made using pink yarns or fabrics that were originally designed to be a positive form of protest for Trump's inauguration by Sue. She wanted a hat for the cooler climate in Washington, D.C., and made herself a hat for the protest. Realizing the potential, we could all wear them, make a unified statement. So in response to this call, crafters all over the United States began making these hats using patterns provided on the project website. And the project's goal was to have 1 million hats handed out at Washington, D.C., which was basically completed because from what I heard, at some point, all of those hats were sold out. And also for the origin of the design and the name is to claim the derogatory term pussy, a play on Trump's widely reported 2005 remarks that women would let him grab them by the pussy. So, many of the hats worn by marchers in Washington was created by crafters who were not able to attend and wished them to be worn by those who could to represent their presence. So here's another iconic item, the signage. So on the day of Women's March, protesters are allowed to carry these signage that are made out of board cards. The signage could be about anything related to the protest, However, some topics are banned for it. For example, the signs should not encourage civil disobedience. In January 2020, the National Archives acknowledged that it altered photographs of the Women's March on Washington, blurring the word Trump in a sign that reads, "God hates Trump," and another that reads, "Trump and God, hands off women," as well as other placards that reference the parts of the women's anatomy. And a spokesperson for the National Archives explained that the censorship was designed to avoid the politicizing the event and to protect children and young people who might see the sign.
Since there are lots of people attended this march, so I will tell some opinions of the message. First, there is a participation like 3,300,000 to 4,600,000 people participate this United States March. It's up to 5 million did worldwide. So that means so many people participate this march, and most of people are support this. In the academics people, they believe that the success of the protest march is the root of the persistence. So this means if you want to win this march, you must to be persistent. But they didn't make some evaluation of this content and purpose of the demonstration. So, but for this march, since it starts of Donald Trump's, so the politician is the most important for this march, and many politicians said during the march that they would no longer attend Trump's inauguration. And even some of the politicians did attend this march. So that means lots of politicians are support this march. There is an example that John Carmen, who is a Republican governor of New Jersey, he mocked the march, but later he lost to a newcomer in November 7th in 2017 election. And this march started this time because of political reasons. So the political aspects are very great influence for Donald Trump and for the whole United States. The more politicians participate in this march and agree with it, the more important and successful this march would be.
So, the influence of the protest is pretty profound. It's not just a protest. First, it motivates people to follow up with the protest. The single protest is usually one part of the larger politician campaign and just a piece of an activist's life. Demonstrators are more likely to follow politics, talk with neighbors, vote, and more. Supporters who watch the protest online to read about it in the next day and also likely to be inspired and engaged to do something else. And also, the protest provides support to allies in government and weaken the resolve of some opponents. The Women's March also inspired individuals to work in campaign to replace the politicians that they could convince and not just the president. So the civil servants and the political appointees see support for holding on to their missions and the law when challenged by the administration. Supportive elected officials see support for stacking out strong positions. Trump supporters in office reconsider their own positions. Witness, for example, the recent rash of congressional retirement as politicians don't want to face the forces the resistance movement has stirred. The protest force politicians to respond to questions on politicals and policy, explaining often poorly the reason behind the unpopular policies. They help set the agendas for both politicians and media. So for the protest, we have some our own opinions. In my point of view, the Women's March motivates people around the world to participate into the protest. It provides a channel to those people, especially women, who had the desire to be heard by the world but could not find a way. So, as the influence of the group was constantly growing, the size of the group encouraged the organizers to keep on carrying out this protest. It will also support all of the activists to speak up for themselves at their areas.
The influence of the organization will even affect the policies and those entities. The most important part is not the protest, but the combination with a broad range of other purposeful actions. And victories are never all that activities demand. Sometimes stopping an opponent from doing something awful is a start at something bigger. That's all our presentation. Thank you.